The movie begins by introducing Michelle Weaver, a hardworking employee at a luxurious 5-star hotel. After years of dedication and honesty, Michelle has finally earned the recognition she deserves. She arrives at the office to meet her boss, Reggie, who has some important news for her. The hotel manager's position is about to become available. After speaking with Michelle for a while, Reggie finally delivers the news she has been waiting for. The position is hers. For Michelle, this is more than just a promotion. After spending years working at the hotel, she is now being trusted with the responsibility of managing the entire place. Even the hotel staff is genuinely happy to see her reach this position. However, Michelle's first day as manager quickly takes an unexpected turn. At the reception desk, a couple is furious because they were given the wrong room. They had specifically booked a particular type of suite, but the room they received was completely different. Jeffrey, the receptionist, tries his best to calm them down, but the couple only becomes more frustrated. Seeing the situation getting worse, Michelle steps in. Instead of arguing with them, she patiently listens to their complaint and then handles the problem professionally. She upgrades them to an even better suite and offers them complimentary drinks. The couple immediately calms down, and Jeffrey is clearly impressed by how effortlessly Michelle manages the situation. Later, during her break, Michelle steps outside and calls her husband, Carl, to share the good news. Carl is genuinely happy for her, and the two decide to celebrate together that evening. But just after Michelle ends the call, everything suddenly changes. A sharp pain hits her chest and her heartbeat begins racing. Then she hears a strange sound coming from nearby. Confused, Michelle steps outside and looks up at the sky. What she sees leaves her completely stunned. A massive red sphere is floating above the city. People everywhere have stopped to stare at it. But within moments, something even more terrifying happens. It's as if someone has suddenly pressed pause on the entire world. Everyone around Michelle becomes completely motionless. Michelle has no idea what's happening. She tries talking to the people nearby, but no one responds. It's almost as if they can no longer hear her. And then, things become even stranger. Michelle soon realizes that whatever is happening isn't limited to the area around her. The entire city seems to have frozen in place. Yet strangely, the people who are still moving don't appear surprised at all. They're behaving as though this strange phenomenon is completely normal. Desperate for answers, Michelle approaches a police officer and asks him what is happening. The officer calmly gives her an answer that only leaves her more confused. He tells her that downtime has begun. Michelle has never heard the term before, so she keeps asking what it means. But before the officer can explain anything else, he suddenly turns his attention toward the red sphere. A moment later, he becomes completely motionless, just like everyone else. Now, Michelle has only one person on her mind, Carl. She immediately rushes home, and thankfully she finds him safe and unharmed. Relieved to see her husband, Michelle quickly tells him everything that has happened outside. But Carl's reaction is completely different from what she expected. He's strangely calm. According to him, there's nothing unusual about what is happening, because downtime had already been scheduled. Michelle is stunned. How could Carl possibly know about something she had never even heard of? Then, without warning, something even more disturbing happens. Carl's manner of speaking suddenly changes. His voice sounds different, and even his accent doesn't seem familiar anymore. Michelle starts to feel as though the man standing in front of her isn't the same Carl she's known for years. Then Carl says something that leaves her completely terrified. He tells Michelle that it's time for her to wake up. Michelle desperately begs him to stop, but Carl simply walks out of the house. Seconds later, he looks toward the red sphere, and just like everyone else, becomes completely still. Michelle is now completely alone in a world that no longer makes any sense. Terrified, she quickly locks the front door, but she barely has time to process what has happened when two complete strangers suddenly enter her house. Michelle grabs a kitchen knife, hoping it will give her some protection, but the two men don't seem concerned at all. One of them simply reaches toward her, and the knife suddenly vanishes from Michelle's hand. That's when Michelle realizes that these men aren't ordinary people. They calmly tell her that they're from customer service. And then they reveal the most shocking truth Michelle has ever heard. The world she has always believed was real isn't real at all. It's an artificial reality created using futuristic technology. The program is called Sleepaway, a revolutionary technology that allows people to experience an entirely different life. Anyone who feels they couldn't live the life they truly wanted in the real world can enter this artificial world and become a completely different version of themselves. Inside Sleepaway, users can choose a new career, change their personality, and even create an entirely new identity. But Michelle is about to discover that her entire life is nothing more than a simulation. Her job, the luxury hotel, her coworkers, and even her husband Carl are all part of this artificial reality. However, the biggest revelation is still to come. The customer service representatives tell Michelle that she isn't even a real person. She's an avatar. And the person who created her is a man named Phineas. Michelle finds this almost impossible to believe. She remembers her entire life in perfect detail. She remembers working hard to build her career, meeting Carl, and all the years they spent together. So how could she possibly be nothing more than an avatar created by someone else? The representatives then explain what really happened. Phineas had entered Sleepaway and designed an entire life based on his personal preferences. But something went terribly wrong while he was inside the simulation. Phineas suddenly suffered a heart attack and fell into a coma in the real world. Because his connection to the system was never properly terminated, his avatar, Michelle, remained active inside Sleepaway. That's also why Michelle can still move freely while everyone else becomes frozen whenever the system enters downtime. But something even more unusual has happened. Michelle's consciousness appears to have developed in a way that Sleepaway has never encountered before. Now, customer service wants Michelle to disconnect from Phineas and shut down her existence. But there's one major problem. Michelle refuses to believe that she's Phineas. As far as she's concerned, she's Michelle. She has her own memories, her own career, her own relationship with Carl, and an entire life that feels completely real to her. No matter how much the representatives try to explain it, Michelle still can't accept that everything she knows could be an illusion. So she refuses to disconnect. That's when the customer service representatives bring in Phineas's wife, Ellen. The moment Ellen sees Michelle, she immediately calls her by her husband's name, Phineas. Michelle denies knowing her and insists that she's not Phineas. But for Ellen, this isn't just some technical problem with a computer program. Her husband is lying in a coma in the real world, and she believes that somehow his consciousness is still alive inside Michelle. Ellen takes Michelle somewhere private and begins telling her about the life she shared with Phineas. They've been married for 15 years and have 2 children. For Ellen, Michelle's existence is directly connected to the man she loves. And if Michelle refuses to disconnect, Ellen could lose her husband forever. Michelle listens quietly. Even after hearing everything, she still doesn't feel like there's another person living inside her. But for the first time, she starts thinking about what her existence could mean for someone else. Maybe this world really is artificial. Maybe she truly is an avatar. And if she chooses to remain here, perhaps someone in the real world will have to pay the price. Eventually, Michelle agrees to disconnect. She and Ellen stand beneath the mysterious red sphere as downtime slowly approaches its end. Everything appears to be ready. Ellen begins returning to her original state, and it seems like Michelle is finally prepared to let go. But at the very last moment, Michelle changes her mind. She can't do it. No matter how artificial this world may be, it's the only life Michelle has ever known. To her, the memories, relationships, and experiences are real. So Michelle turns around and runs back to the hotel. Knowing the building better than anyone, she hides inside one of its most secure areas, believing that the customer service team won't be able to find her there. But Michelle has forgotten one important thing. She didn't create this world, and for the system controlling the entire reality, hiding inside a hotel isn't exactly difficult. After some time, Michelle notices a pigeon sitting outside a window. The strange bird repeatedly taps its beak against the glass. Curious, Michelle walks closer to it. The moment she gets near, the pigeon suddenly makes an unusual sound and flies away. Michelle looks down, and there they are. The customer service team has found her. She immediately starts running again, racing through the hotel's corridors and stairways as she desperately tries to stay ahead of them. But wherever she goes, it feels like someone is always watching her. Eventually, Michelle reaches the rooftop. There's nowhere left to run. Then she hears a man's voice behind her. His name is Tom, a senior representative of the customer service team. But surprisingly, Tom isn't there to fight Michelle or force her to disconnect. Instead, he tells her something she never expected to hear. The company is confused by what's happening too. They don't understand why Phineas's connection to Sleepaway has become so unusual, or how Michelle managed to develop an independent existence. Then Tom reveals the truth Michelle desperately needs to know. Phineas isn't coming back. His condition in the real world had continued to deteriorate, and now Phineas is dead. But Tom has one more shocking revelation. Phineas's death wasn't simply the result of his heart attack. He had intentionally taken sleeping pills because he didn't want to leave this artificial world behind. Somehow, the life he experienced inside Sleepaway had become more appealing to him than his real life outside. That's why he tried to remain permanently connected to the simulation. But things didn't go as planned. His body eventually gave out, leaving him trapped inside the system. And now that Phineas is dead, there is no longer an external user controlling Michelle. For the first time, the decision she makes can truly be her own. Tom then gives Michelle an agreement. If she wants to remain inside the simulation, she must sign it. The company will no longer be responsible for anything she chooses to do from that point forward. For the first time, Michelle has complete freedom. Nobody is forcing her to disconnect, and nobody is forcing her to stay. She can leave this world behind or continue living the life she's always known. Michelle takes some time to think. The life she had just discovered was artificial, was still the same life in which she had experienced some of her happiest moments. She loves the hotel, she loves her career, and she loves the life she shared with Carl. Most importantly, there is no longer anyone else controlling her existence. After thinking it through, Michelle finally signs the agreement. At that exact moment, the downtime countdown reaches 0. The enormous red sphere hovering above the city slowly disappears. Within moments, the frozen world begins moving again. People return to their normal routines, guests fill the hotel, and the reception area becomes busy once more. Michelle steps into her new role as the hotel manager. Sometime later, a familiar face walks through the hotel's entrance. It's Ellen, the same woman who once begged Michelle to disconnect from her husband. But this time, Ellen isn't there looking for Phineas. She's simply another guest in this artificial world. Michelle notices her, and Ellen notices Michelle. For a few quiet moments, the two women simply look at each other and smile. Perhaps Ellen has entered sleepaway hoping to find some connection to the husband she lost. Or perhaps for Michelle, seeing Ellen again is proof that this life finally belongs to her. Either way, Michelle has made her choice, and with that, her journey finally comes to an end. Please like and subscribe for more video like this. Thanks for watching.